Hi, this is guitarist Denis, and I'm in my home studio, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. And this is actually going to be part 2, where we're going to be taking a look at the Synth 9. Now, this video isn't going to be about so much what the Synth 9 sounds like, but something much more interesting than that. Now, I happened across a Synth 9, guitar synthesizer pedal, and I thought, wow, this is kind of neat, with just plugging a guitar cable into the pedal, a guitar into the pedal without any MIDI pickup, you can get synthesizer type sounds out of it. Makes your guitar sound like a synthesizer. Now there were some drawbacks, and that is that really it has 9 main sounds and then you twist knobs. So first you've got to select one of the 9 options and then play around with the knobs to get different sounds. And while that's fine, that's one way of doing it, of getting different sounds, right? It's pretty hopeless if you're ever going to try to play live with it without being limited to that one sound that you have it set to, or you've got to, wherever your pedal is, you got to bend down and twist the knobs to get a different sound out of it. And if you're trying to play live or record live, that kind of thing, you're basically locked into that one sound unless you want to, bend down and twist the knobs. And if there are certain sounds that you like and want to be able to recall, well, unless you're a really super fast knob turner, and get it super accurate, it's just not going to happen. So this is really one drawback to the Synth 9 pedals. In fact, all of the 9 pedals thus far. So while I really like the sounds of the pedal, I found this to be a tremendous drawback, to basically, the new pedal I think is $220, and you're basically stuck with one sound if you're playing live, whatever you have it set to. I certainly don't want to, to get a different sound each time, especially while I'm playing, I have to bend over and twist the knobs and things to get a different sound. So, that was a real drawback. However, I'd heard that there's this little company in the Czech Republic, right? And they actually have a MIDI modification, which would allow 128 presets and full MIDI control of the Synth 9 pedal. In other words, one preset could choose one of the 9 sounds, plus what knobs you had on, plus on top of that CC messages to allow further control of the pedal. And I thought, well, now wait a minute, that's too good to be true. Could it really be that? Is that really possible? Because it's not Electro-Harmonix doing that, though I think they should. But if this was possible, well, that would be a game changer for this pedal, for the Synth 9 pedal, because it is capable of a ton of different sounds. It's just a real hassle to dial them in, especially if you're playing live or recording live, Now, for some people, you know, they just want to screw around with it. They can, you know, twist the knobs and get a sound and I guess record with it and then stop and twist the knobs again, you know, that kind of thing. But for me, that certainly wouldn't work very well because I do a lot of looping type things, and then, you know, I play live, or at least live in the studio, and record live, you know, in my particular case. So anyway, I investigated that company to see if this was really possible and if what they were claiming was true. It seems hard to believe. Now, I will say it wasn't cheap and it wasn't easy to do, but I went ahead and tried it. And what that entailed is, luckily they have a guitar store, pretty much, right? I think they called it the Guitar Emporium, and I forget the guy's name who does it. Omillion Audio, I think, works with that store, and he can basically install the little box from the Czech Republic that goes on the Synth 9 pedal to control it via MIDI. So, in order to do that, what I had to do is, well, unfortunately, pay $250 first off, and the company in Texas had to order the little box from the Czech Republic, and then once they get it, then I have to send in my pedal, the Synth 9 pedal, and they will install the box and send it back to you. Right? Now, you know, to get something in the mail via the Czech Republic took a while, of course, you know, just to get it to the store in Texas, and then sending in the pedal on top of it. So basically, it was a lot of work. And I don't mean just me. I mean, the person who installed it as well, of course, and the company sending it. So this was a big deal, basically. And it took about, I would say, probably maybe 2 months, maybe a little less than that overall. So this is not, you know, this wasn't just something you can just, you know, order from Guitar Center or what have you, or one of the online places. But I got it done, and I want to show it to you here. So this is what you get. There it is. Quite amazing. This little box right here, and it's permanently attached to the original Synth 9 pedal, right? And what's really interesting about this, of course, it has an LCD display right here, and 4 lighted knobs, and a foot switch. And they took off the little white foot switch that controls the 9 selections for the different kind of synth sounds, and replaced it with a foot switch right here. Basically serves a similar purpose. Not quite, but pretty close. And then these 4 knobs haven't changed at all, and are, you know, still function. You can still rotate the knobs and things. But here's the big difference. You'll notice here, LCD, it says 1, and I move that up, it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 128 sounds. Then you have an on-off button right here, right, which is controlled via the foot switch, turns it on and off, or I should say, I guess, bypass, on and off. And you can also save presets that way. And the way it works now, You'll notice it has a MIDI in and a MIDI out on each side. One on each side, right? And now, to change the 9 settings, I hit the edit button, right here. And right there, you'll see it says program 1, right? And you use the knobs here. Program 9, right? 1 through 9, you can choose. And then just hit the store button, right? Or twist the knobs to where you want them, and it saves those settings, right? Which is really, really amazing. And remember, this is going to be, for me, controlled with a MIDI controller. Let's see if I have one available here. I can show you. And any MIDI controller will work. In this case, it's a Soul Man right here, right, from Source Audio, a MIDI controller. And this controls not only this MIDI pedal, but all of my MIDI pedals. So I can hit one switch and it changes all of the settings on all of my pedals to get exactly the sound that I want, or that I programmed in there. Okay, now, so anyway, this is it, and we'll go through some of the presets. Now, I've tried it, and it really does work, and for people without even a MIDI controller, this is still extremely useful pedal, because now you can change sounds and recall them with one foot switch, right? Here. Or in this case, I guess you'd still have to press the pedals if you didn't have a MIDI controller. Press these two little brown colored switches to go from each preset. So up or down, right? Okay, now, and I'll show you, I'll play through it here in a little bit. But I can tell you right now, here's what happened, my experience. One, you still can't believe that it's actually doing that. That's actually controlling the Synth 9. But it really is. It's amazing. But what I discovered is now the pedal makes sense to me now. You know, the amount of different sounds is astounding. You know, and so you can create your own presets right away, and it really becomes, to me, kind of like an effects processor, like a Helix or a Zoom or a, you know, the rack mount lexicon units, right? And, you know, you go through, each preset has a totally different sound and that kind of thing. Well, this is the same thing, the same way. And I just can't believe that people settle for basically this one sound approach without something like this. You know, without the MIDI control. Because it's a limitation on the pedal, you know, as far as for using it live, anyway, you know. And not only just using it live, but you could not possibly remember the exact parameters of each knob, and, you know, and the 9 variations. You know, if you're just dialing them in. You know, you might come close or whatever on a couple of them, but for the amount of different sounds that you can get out of this pedal, this is essential, really. I just can't believe that Electro-Harmonix lets this happen without taking advantage of it themselves. And now, to me, this pedal is worth the money. Whereas before I thought, well, you know, it's expensive, it's really neat, and the sounds are great, but such a hassle to use, you know, because you've got to, you know, change the knobs all the time, knob settings, you know, to get different sounds, right? And I just can't do that if I'm playing live, you know, not to mention that I also have to control the other pedals, you know, such as delay and reverb pedals. I've got to control those via MIDI. So this was a no-brainer. It changes the pedal completely. To really make it a real tone machine, in the sense that you get so many different sounds and so many possibilities, you know, and that's why this thing is amazing. You know, it really opens up the possibilities of sounds that you can get out of this pedal, you know, and be able to recall them like that, and it's the same every time, you know, and that's essential, you know, especially if you're, you know, create a sound, you know, by twisting the knobs and things. Say, here we go, this is a great sound, you know, I want to keep it and be able to reuse it later, come up with the exact same sound, and this will do it. Whereas, you know, the Synth 9 on its own, you couldn't do that, obviously. Okay, now, I will say, when you first get it, you think, boy, it's kind of really awkward, because, I mean, look at that. It's a pedal on top of a pedal, really, but it's in there securely, you know. And, by the way, the Omillion sound guy did a great job. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Omillion Audio, and it's a guy, he does pedal boards and customizations and that kind of thing. So that is really cool, you know. So I have yet to install it really in my setup. I'm working on that to use with my MIDI controller. But just on its own, I went through some of the presets, and then moved the knobs and saved some of the presets and things. Man, it really works. It's amazing. You know, now the only thing I could dream of is, you know, to make this stereo instead of mono, but, you know, you can add a delay or a reverb, stereo delay or reverb from another unit and get pretty good sounds out of this pedal. So there you go. That's what I wanted to show you. It took quite a bit of doing and quite a bit of persistence, you know, to get this done. You know, I mean, and it sounds so simple, but in reality, you know, it was quite a project, really. You know, now obviously, if you have a MIDI controller, that, you know, you would want this kind of pedal. But even for those without a MIDI pedal, you could use it, you know, just to switch presets, but you still have to hit these switches, which are too small for your foot. You know, but obviously, you know, it's meant to use with a MIDI controller. And man, does it open up the possibilities of sounds of the pedal, you know. And anyone who owns this pedal knows that, you know, twisting one knob a certain way, even on the same program, you know, one of the 9 programs, gives you a different sound. You know, so to imagine that you can recall 128 different sounds. It's almost like having 128 Synth 9 pedals. You know, kind of. At least in a live setting, right? So I'm totally impressed. Highly, highly recommend it. Quite honestly, I hope that Electro-Harmonix, you know, gets their act together and put, you know, Synth 9 with MIDI control. You know, it really is essential, especially for this kind of pedal that can or is capable of so many different sounds. You know, so well, let's take a listen to it, and I'll show you that it works quite well. You know, and yeah, I just don't understand why they would not add MIDI to a pedal that creates so many different sounds. You know. So now you have preset capability. That makes all the difference in the world. And it's going to cost you $250 total, plus the cost of the Synth 9 pedal. Right? So, I mean, it's not a cheap proposition at this point. Now, if they can mass produce it, you know, if Electro-Harmonix says, man, maybe we should put MIDI in these things, right? Since another company is doing it already, you know, maybe the cost will go way down. And I still dream of the ultimate, you know, synth pedal where they take all of the 9, Electro-Harmonix takes all of the 9 pedals, makes them stereo, and gives them MIDI all in one box. That would be an incredible product. But that could be years away, who knows, if ever. So this is the alternative for now. You know. Now, for example, a bass 9 pedal, you know, where it's bass sounds. When you're playing, you know, you might have a sound and, you know, won't necessarily need to change that sound during a performance. So MIDI is not quite as crucial there. But on this kind of thing, you know, where you're going to be switching from one synthesizer sound maybe to another during the same performance or same song or same track, whatever you're playing, you know, the MIDI is essential for that, you know. And that has turned me off in the past, where I just won't even consider a pedal, you know, that doesn't have MIDI for that very reason, you know, unless it's something, you know, like something you leave on all the time or won't change during your performance. And usually a bass pedal, unless you want several bass sounds in a performance, but I usually wouldn't. You know, and that's the thing, and that's the problem with it. You know, when companies put out such a cool pedal but no MIDI, right? You know, and to me that just, you know, complicates things and makes it much more difficult to use in my setup, you know. Ideally, all these pedals would have MIDI, and I can use a MIDI controller to control them all, and be able to hit just one switch and not be, you know, tap dancing, you know, over my pedal board to get a sound that I'm trying to recall, you know. Okay, so that's something to consider. I I doubt that most people know about this, that it's even a possibility. You know? I mean, I was stunned. I couldn't believe. Is that really possible? You know, that would be a great, you know, addition to have a MIDI mod, you know, modification, where they add the other pedal on top of the Synth 9. So let's give this a try. Okay, this is just a clean guitar running through two little Fender X2s. Okay, so here we go. I've got the pedal here, and it's bypassed right now. I'm going to hit preset 1, so let's try that. So this turns it on. Here's what's cool. So here we go. Switching it over, preset 2. Sounds kind of like an organ. Alright, preset 3. Preset 4. Preset 5. Preset 8. 11. Preset 12. Preset 13. Okay, well, I hope that gives you an idea anyway. Now, these are just what were the presets that were in there. I think there's maybe 8 or 9 of them, you know. I haven't actually gone through and set the tones that I like and those kinds of things yet. But it's quite fascinating to me, especially when I'll be using it with a MIDI controller, you know. Now that's going to take hours and hours of experimentation and deciding, yes, I like that sound, no, I don't like that sound, or, you know, this sound would go well with this reverb and that kind of thing. So really endless possibilities. Do I recommend it? Highly. Highly. It's almost essential. It really opens up the pedal to all kinds of different sounds. You know, and it's capable of creating a ton of sounds. And, you know, as I mentioned before, recording live and that kind of thing. Or playing live even, you know, without having to, you know, bend down and twist knobs and things. You know, makes a ton of difference. So it really works well. Now this was just a Synth 9 into the X2, so there were no additional reverbs or delays and things. So you can imagine the sound, you know, how good it'll sound, especially with a little stereo delay or stereo reverb, that kind of thing. Alright, so there you go. And if you go to the microdesignum website, they'll have all about this pedal and also the place in Texas, the store in Texas that will actually install the modification things. Or they'll send you the pedal and you can install it yourself. Depending on your skill level as far as that kind of thing goes. And they have detailed instructions on how to do it. But I took a look at them and I figured, man, you know, I just don't do enough of that stuff to feel comfortable doing that. I mean, you have to open up the pedal and snip things here and there and, you know, resolder things, so. But the Omillion audio, right? I think it's the Texas Sanctuary or something like that. And Omillion Audio, that's the guy's name, Omillion, works with that company who does the actual installation thing. And I guess he does pedal boards all day long and that kind of thing, custom pedal boards. And he can do a really great job installing it. You know, and there wasn't much back and forth, you know, emails constantly, you know. It was basically, okay, send in your pedal, we'll get it done, end of story, and we'll send it back to you. And they did. So, no complaints there. Well done. Alright, I hope this has been helpful and might make you consider, you know, doing something like this. Now, incredibly, this company, the microdesignum, said they can do most of the H9 pedals. I'm sorry, most of the 9 pedals, Electro-Harmonix 9 pedals. And, you know, it's definitely an advantage compared to something like, you know, plain Synth 9 pedal or Boss SY1. And I haven't found a MIDI mod for that at all, you know. So, but the Electro-Harmonix can be done. They can also do the Mel 9, for example, the Key 9, all the 9 pedals, pretty much. So that's pretty amazing. I wish this one box, you know, would do all of the 9 pedals, but you've got to get a box, I guess, for each one. You know, that you want MIDI control for. So while it's an expensive proposition, it really opens up the possibilities of the pedal, you know. Alright, see you next time. Bye.